Hello, everyone, and welcome to Make It Big 2021. Thanks so much for being here with us today. My name is Melissa Dixon. I'm our Director of Content Marketing here at Big Commerce, and I'm so excited to be here today with Nicole Leinbach Reyhle, the founder of RetailMinded.com. Nicole, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we are so thrilled that you're here as well. And, you have so much experience in retail and wholesale, from beginning your career at a men's tuxedo store to becoming a leading global retail expert. Tell us how you got started and ultimately what led you to found RetailMinded.com.
I was so grateful as a young girl. I lived in a community of North Chicago, so a town called Libertyville, and I had a mom who, like many moms, enjoyed shopping. And so with two sisters, it was a weekend pastime that we became all too familiar with. But what I really loved was getting to know our local main street. So we lived in a town called Libertyville. They had a lot of small businesses, and we would actually take road trips to other towns. And what I really fell in love with was the footprint of small businesses within these communities that brought them to life. And the curiosity began early. I was just a young girl when I remember telling my mom in the middle of a shoe department at a mall, so we were at a department store on that particular afternoon, and said, what, this looks really cool. I wonder what the business of this like. And, fast forward, one of my early careers was actually national marketing director for Franco Sarto Footwear, which is a national footwear company. And I worked with all the major retailers. So you had, at the time, Macy's, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom's, some stores like Marshall Field's, which are no longer with us, but have turned into Macy's. So I just have a really robust history of the passion, I guess you can say, of retail, and a lot of interesting curiosity that provoked me to want to ultimately start Retail Minded.
I love that story, and I can definitely relate from a young age, but also starting my career in retail marketing as well. So yeah, that's cool. Fantastic. All right, let's talk about retail innovation over the course of the last year. We've seen a ton. What have we learned?
I think the one big takeaway that we've seen over the last year in retail is that innovation is only exciting if it's actually used. In other words, savvy and unique can be just that. It can be savvy and unique, but unless consumers respond to it, it's irrelevant. And so throughout the pandemic, we saw a lot of great things come to life. Some things were already in motion, but they really came to their full opportunities within the pandemic. Even text message marketing, we'll look at it from a very simple perspective. We saw text messaging being used as a way to communicate efficiency with customers and businesses. And although that existed for many years, we didn't really see it come to its forefront until the pandemic. But then you have other things like Comment Sold, which is, I'll probably talk about that again later today, the use of live streaming video and social selling, or payment transactions such as buy now, pay later, like we see with platforms such as Klarna. These are innovations that did exist, but throughout the pandemic, they came more to life. And I think we all have a lot to look forward to, even more so as we look ahead to 2022, which is just around the corner.
Yeah, I think that acceleration, witnessing that, has been astounding. And we've also at the same time seen shopper expectations rise more than ever before. Consumers have more choices in where they choose to shop. And, there's so much competition online now. They're even more selective in who they choose to do business with. It's a personal choice. So how can retailers best understand what their customers are really looking for and how they can meet their needs?
So I think that's a great question, Melissa. I think, again, reflecting back on the pandemic, one of the things that consumers started to realize is that they truly are in control. Historically, consumers have always been in control. After all, they decide what they purchase, and that ultimately defines the success or failure of any brand or business. But keeping that in mind, I think it became very interesting to see how consumers took control, okay? So their path to purchase was abrupted wildly during COVID. And here we are, the world has come back to life. And with that, what have we seen consumers do? Well, consumers took advantage of what they learned during COVID, and now they're applying it to their real-time experiences. And they're connecting with brands and retailers in ways that they learned during COVID, such as, for example, that social selling experience that I mentioned earlier. Comment Sold is an example of that, where you can shop directly via social media from the comfort of your home. So let's say Facebook or Instagram. If you're a consumer, you can connect with a brand doing live video streaming from their store or their warehouse or just a showroom for that matter, highlighting product and inventory, making that purchase from the comfort of your home. So it's merging, it's a hybrid blend of like physical and digital, which I think is very, very cool. Another thing that we're seeing is that consumers are driving choice by transaction opportunities. So let me explain that more. A lot of companies right now are actually, or let me take that back, a lot of consumers right now are actually deciding who accepts the payment of how I want to pay. That's where I'm going to shop. I think this is genius. So, for example, the buy now, pay later platforms that are essentially installment payment companies that we see emerging across the globe, and I'll use Klarna as an example. What's happening is that consumers are following these choice of payments that they've now preferred to use. And with that, they're in a community that says, so let's say, for example, a Facebook group. A lot of these companies actually have Facebook groups, or they get email blasts that connects to the users, so the customers, that highlights businesses that welcome Klarna. And customers then decide, because you accept Klarna, I'm going to now shop with you. So payment has actually become a marketing engine. And I think that's super fascinating for small businesses and large retailers alike to take advantage of. And that's all driven by consumer preference.
It's such a fascinating thing to witness, these consumers being in control more now than ever and actually actively influencing trends in retail. So I do want to dive into a few popular retail trends that we're seeing right now. The first is sustainability. It continues to be super top of mind for consumers all around the world. So what does it mean to you to be a sustainable company, and what role do you think that brand mission and marketing play into measuring success when you're talking about sustainability?
You know, sustainability is such a big, big, broad word. I think that it covers so many touch points, and both a brand and a consumer can perceive it from a lot of different perspectives. But keeping that in mind, I think it's really important for retailers in particular to consider what's important to them. Okay, so is it the product actual sourcing of materials? Is it the packaging of the product? Is it, if you have a physical storefront, is it your actually in-store best practices that support sustainable actions? So kind of considering all the different ways that you can be sustainable, a business needs to then look at what's important to my particular customer. Because if we actually look at the data tells us the sustainability varies across the generations. What means sustainable to one generation might mean something else to another, and likewise, the value of which it's going to influence their purchase. So at the end of the day, Melissa, you know, as business decision makers, we have to remember what will lead to transaction, what's going to drive customers to make a purchase. And if sustainability is among those drivers, then it's important for us to also take action in communicating those efforts. So for example, if you are a business that's decided we're going to only use recycled goods for our packaging materials, or we're going to limit some of our packaging options so that we have less physical material because of sustainability, it's important you communicate that to your audience, and that can actually help encourage customers to want to spend with you. Because, you know, I love this idea of trends in retail, but at the end of the day, trends are only impactful if they lead to transaction, you know, and I'm always about like, what is going to lead us to profit? How will we lead to success? So in theory, all these trends that retailers want to support have to also support you as a business.
Definitely. So I think if we're talking trends, I think we have to talk about the word hybrid. You know, that is, of course, the bridging of offline and online shopping experiences. And you mentioned this earlier in one of your responses. So this one is really buzzing across the industry right now. There's no denying that as the world starts to recover from this pandemic, hybrid shopping will be crucial. So walk us through what an ideal hybrid shopping experience looks like and why this model is so important.
Yeah, so earlier I did mention comments sold, and I'll use them again as a great hybrid example, because what it does is it essentially allows for you to blend that digital world and the physical world into this hybrid opportunity. It's informative, it's engaging, it's interactive, and the best part is that it's immediate. And from all my years in retail, the one thing I've learned both as a consumer and a thought leader, a researcher within this space, is that immediate is important. You want the transaction to happen quickly, whenever possible. You do not want a dead end. You don't want to take a detour. You don't want to have a collision that gets that customer off course. So hybrid allows for businesses to blend that virtual world into a physical world and connect with the customer. And connectivity is, for me, the most important part of hybrid. So it's allowing for an engaging experience. It's allowing for an immediate experience. But the connectivity is what ultimately is going to lead to transaction. And again, everything ends or begins, depending on how you look at it, with transaction.
Yeah, I love that. And the connectivity serves to sort of remove the friction.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep exploring that, the way these trends are impacting the way that brands engage with customers. From your perspective, why is fostering engagement and building relationships more important now than ever before?
So what a great question, and kind of leading back to what I had just said about how a transaction can either end a journey or begin a new one. It's really both, and with that offers brand loyalty. So when you have a first-time customer and you capture that customer through transaction, you begin the opportunity of brand loyalty, right? And likewise, if a customer returns to your business because they've been there once before and through that experience they've decided to come again, brand loyalty is so incredibly important. And so I think that as businesses invest in the opportunities in which exist, here we are in 2021, very close to 2022, technology is robust. We have things such as Comment Soul that I just explained, or payment services that can explode new audiences of customers. I think that we have to think about how does that leverage brand loyalty to boost our business. And when you're building brand loyalty, you want to also consider how you can do so through community, okay? So across the generations, we all have different considerations of what community means to us. To me as a consumer, now I'm not quite mid 40s yet, but I'm somewhere, between the early 40s and the mid 40s. And with that, what is important to me is feeling a part of a community means that I need to identify with a brand. I need to know where I can go to see what's up, what's going on with that brand. Is it a Facebook group? Probably not for me, okay? But there are many people that is important to. Is it an Instagram page? Very possibly. Is it an email newsletter I signed up for? Absolutely, okay? If I've chose to elect into something as a consumer, I want to see that because we know how to unsubscribe if we don't want to be a part of that community. So you want to give community opportunities to your audience as well, and you really need to nurture them. It can't just be pushing out, you need to take in and listen to. So as we work towards that long-term loyalty, we also need to strengthen our community engagement so that consumers want to be a part of your experience. And the consumer marketing word of mouth, I think, is truly underrated. We see a lot of referral programs out there, even at like our local nail salons. But when we look at that from a bigger perspective, whether it's buying a luxury handbag by an unknown brand though online, right? So maybe you truly create these beautiful travel bags that currently that's something I've been Googling online. I don't want necessarily a name brand, but I do want something from a smaller brand that still feels luxury, okay? And then I dive into what does that look like among the people who have already bought from them, peer-to-peer reviews, okay? Word of mouth from people I already know. These are the people that are going to influence me more as a consumer, and so you need to nurture that as a brand as well. Make sure that your audience are truly fans of your business and that what they are saying is worth being said. Because if it's not, then you need to reconsider all the touch points of your business, of course, your actual product, the communication, and everything else that goes along with that. So a quick recap would be long-term loyalty, brand community, and your word of mouth consumer marketing.
Yeah, fantastic advice. And definitely I like the idea of getting back to basics sort of with that consumer marketing and word of mouth.
Yeah.
Along these same lines, there's a term that you've coined that I love, shoppertainment, which is such a fascinating concept, so relevant right now. Can you explain to our audience what all that entails and how retailers can leverage this strategy to really foster engagement and turn shoppers into those repeat customers to build brand loyalty?
Shoppertainment, it's been around forever. And I can't say I necessarily coined it so much, but I've certainly nurtured what it means and looks like, because I've heard it from a lot of different angles over the years. But what I believe shoppertainment really entails is that connectivity and that engagement among consumers. And I've mentioned connectivity already once today. I really believe that is so important to connecting to customers. There I go using that word again, connecting. But when you're looking to build a shoppertainment moment, a shoppertainment experience, and more so a shoppertainment brand, it means that you are building on multiple touch points that keeps your customers wanting to stay there. I mean, you and I, whoever's listening today, I mean, Melissa, I'm sure you can agree with me here. We have moments of opportunity where we're shopping and we're totally disconnected. We detour, we get off that path to purchase. And quite simply, it's because we're not engaged, okay? We are not feeling that connectivity. But yet, on the opposite side of that, other times we feel that connectivity. We are engaged. Maybe it's because I'm scrolling social media and there's a humorous video or a meme that's branded to their particular product or company, and then I feel connected, and then I happen to go to the website and boom, I make a purchase. Other times, that path to purchase starts in different ways. But the whole idea of shoppertainment is to essentially, inform and engage. You want to make sure that your audience wants to be a part of what you have to say and what you have to share. So what you're saying and sharing will lead you to shoppertainment experiences.
You're absolutely right. When it comes to the path to purchase, there's so many different routes. It's not always linear. So from that end, what strategies and tactics do you think that retailers can implement quickly to create an engaging retail experience that's seamless across channels? What can they do?
Great question, Melissa. I mean, honestly, I'm still surprised that here we are in 2021 and many merchants are multi-channel. They are not omni-channel. So the way I like to describe it is when you are multi-channel, you literally have many, many avenues that customers can connect to your brand. When you are omni-channel, you have many, many avenues, but they're all intertwined, okay? So an omni-channel merchant is going to allow for stronger customer connectivity and all the data that is collected at those touch points, whether it's in store or online, digital, via mobile, wherever it's coming from. You as a business leader can reflect on and make more profitable, more proactive decisions based on that data. So I think that's super important when we think about the path to purchase, is to make sure that we have omni-channel efforts a part of them. So number one, I would say you absolutely must do that. The other thing I would say is to challenge yourself to think as a consumer, not as a retailer. And I think that's really important to consider because two reasons. The very first is that we are selfish as consumers, okay? Who I am at, a 40-something-year-old woman, I'm going to make a different decision than, let's say, a 20-something-year-old woman versus a 40-year-old man versus a 35-year-old teacher versus a 50-year-old industry executive. Okay, so there's a lot of scenarios out there of how consumers are influenced in their purchase, and we need to consider who other people are in these efforts that we make as business decision makers. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys, because I really do think that's a challenge sometimes to step outside your comfort zone and look to what other consumers are thinking, again, not as a retailer, but as a consumer. And so I'll go back to what we were talking about earlier, being that comment sold. Maybe you were saying to yourself, well, I'll never buy something online. That's not me. I'm more of an in-store person from that hybrid blend. Well, thousands and millions of people have already decided, I sure plan to buy online again and again and again, right? So we need to be reflective of what consumers want to do. And then that leads me to my next point, is to challenge what other generations are thinking and preferring, because as business decision makers, we have to cross sectors. And when we go, when we think forward to our brand growth and our customer loyalty, our customers are also maturing, because as years pass, that's what they do, right? But we also want to be reflective upon the new customer opportunities. So constantly consider, how are generations shopping? How can I best support them? How can I support our existing customers and welcome this new wave of consumers as well?
So much good information packed in there. I love, considering the generational differences and having strategies to support that. Also putting yourself in your customer shoes, really, and building empathy. And that's what helps build that connectivity that you've been talking about. So we've talked a lot about, these hot trends in retail. Let's talk about what that means for holiday. It's September. It is upon us. So coming off the largest e-commerce holiday season we've ever had in 2020, what predictions do you have for this season as far as what's going to be most crucial for retailers?
Well, I can't help but immediately think of generations, because we just talked about that. And my nieces recently had a conversation. I had a conversation with them, just to give you some perspective. They're 19 and 17 years old. One's a sophomore in college, one's a senior in high school. And we were talking about the holidays and what they were looking forward to. And among the things they said was shopping with my friends. Okay. I think, again, looking back a year ago when the pandemic, we were in the middle of it, and going out necessarily socializing with friends maybe wasn't happening as much. This year, more and more people are going to do that. So I would encourage the shoppertainment momentum to happen online, in store. If you have a digital brand only, how can you merge that into physical experiences that consumers can share online maybe, right? So bring the shoppertainment to life in every capacity that you can. Make sure that your customers are excited to get engaged this holiday season. The other thing I would say is that you want to make sure that you have set up your payments so that customers of all generations and consumers can choose what preference they want to shop with within your brand this holiday season. So again, Klarna, which I mentioned earlier, I'll use them as an example again, because I really believe what they're offering in terms of payment choice for customers is so important. It's no longer the traditional cash, check, credit card. This is truly an option that millions of consumers across the globe have accepted as their preferred choice. So I say, as the holidays are approaching, make sure you introduce that into your acceptance. And while I'm at that, I think the other thing too here is go ahead and look at the integrations that integrate into your platform. For example, BigCommerce offers, so many great integrations. Look at what can integrate to help you have a more robust, more easily managed holiday season, from your shipping to your payments to your packaging, to your communication to your customers, to just your data in general that you're receiving and analyzing. I would highly encourage you now to do that. So when the holidays come, it's that much easier to get through them and really focus on what you guys do best, which is sell your product, source your product, push that product out from a marketing perspective, and get as many consumer eyes on it as possible. And once again, I can't stress this enough. I think I've mentioned it a couple times in so many words, that old-fashioned customer service is so important too. So what are those connection points that customers have with your brand, and how fast are you responding to them? I know as a consumer myself, I'll often go to Instagram to DM if I have an inquiry about a product, but I'm going to most likely reply to the brand and potentially purchase from the brand that responds to me faster. Because remember, that keyword earlier I said was immediate. Customers want immediate response in their shopping. So whatever that transaction destination looks like, make sure that your communication opportunities are also efficient.
Great advice there. And I want to dig in a little bit more to the shoppertainment aspect of the holidays. And of course, I think promotions are key to that as well. Such a huge part of holiday retail. So if we're going back to that hybrid retail concept, where offline and online need to work in tandem, what advice would you give to retailers who are preparing promotional plans? How can they create a strategy that's entertaining and inspiring for physical retail while still maintaining the draw to the digital arena? How can they really balance the two?
I think that, the one thing to keep in mind is that digital discovery of product can lead to digital purchase. It can also lead to in-store. And likewise, in-store inspiration from someone might lead to them scrolling online later and making a purchase. So keeping all that in mind, you want to offer incentives to your customers that I think can be broken down into two fairly simple categories: first-time customers and repeat customers. It doesn't have to get too much more complex than that, but your first-time customers have a different attraction and appeal for you to accept them for that very, very first time, right? They have not put trust in you before as a consumer, so you need to capture them from that first-time perspective. Once you have them, nurture that, and then consider different incentives for that audience. And so hopefully you guys are taking your email list that you capture along the way as well and targeting your messaging to either those first-time customers or your already established customers. It's really important that you don't just put a generic block out there to everyone, because they are different. Okay, so you need to nurture the differences that they have. Once they've become a customer, you have the chance to build a community in which they feel a part of. So consider that. I would definitely say to encourage incentives that, of course, any sort of savings, customers love that. That's not new news to you guys, but consider the margins on your products so that you can actually support savings in your promotional marketing, right? So that consumers are getting a savings, but from your margin perspective, you're not feeling as if you've been shortchanged too much. So as you're sourcing your inventory, also consider how you can plan ahead into this promotional marketing that the holidays really do demand.
Definitely. So I think too, a big part of that, is surprising and delighting customers. Consumers expect, especially during the holiday season, to be surprised and delighted by their favorite brands. So promotions aside, what are some of the other ways that retailers can bring joy to the shopping experience and really delight their customers?
So, earlier we were talking about sustainability as something that customers feel attached to. But that is not the only thing customers feel attached to. There are so many great causes, charities, local organizations, things that bring sentiment to the hearts of customers. And so the holidays are really the perfect time to do that. Look to the sentiment of what your own brand or business cares about, and then align with that this holiday season so that you can use that within your marketing efforts and your communication efforts so that customers want to be a part of that as well. So, for example, I'll use my own son as an example, actually. He has alopecia. It means he lost all his hair. He was 3 years old when that happened. He's happy. He's healthy. He's perfect in every other way. In fact, he's perfect in that way too. But I know my small business donates every year to the alopecia community because that's important to my small business. And over the years, a lot of my audience has become familiar with that through my messaging. So you need to decide what's important to you. Is it something that has hit your own heart and you want to share the sentiment of why and then push that towards your own marketing? Or is it more of a national message that you want to support? So whether it's, let's say, children's cancer, everybody, of course, has sentiment for, of course, cancer in general, but children with cancer, or whatever it might be. There is no right or wrong here. The catch is you need to find the sentiment and the communication to share with your audience so you can leverage that. So those would be cause purposed, but you also want to consider community purpose. So if you would rather give back to your local community, maybe there was a local tornado. Maybe there was another hardship that impacted your home state of which you operate your business from. Maybe there is a organization within your hometown that you want to help boost. These are all fantastic places to consider, but that's what you have to do. You have to consider, and then you hopefully will actually create a strategic partnership with that same organization or community so you can ask for their exposure of your brand and business to their audience, so you can gain some marketing from that. And then likewise, you're going to push it out to yours. So that's always great during the holidays, is to just partner with a charity or a cause, some sort of purpose. It could just be a percentage of sales. It could be a certain item that donates a percentage to that particular organization. But this is definitely your time right now to get creative and think about what you want to do, what sentiment that means. The other thing I would say is that festive experiences are a lot of fun during this time of year, and you can sometimes do that with charities. But the other thing you can do is actually look to what's already happening within your community and nationally. So for example, the Saturday that follows Thanksgiving every year for the past 12 years is known as Small Business Saturday. And they offer free resources at shopsmall.com that online as well as in store, so physical brick and mortar businesses can leverage and download for free to use within their own promotional marketing efforts. That's a great opportunity for you to just boost visibility of your brand, but also boost why it's important to support small businesses. So look to what's around you that already exists and then become a part of that as well. And I would also encourage you all to create a calendar during the holidays, because you get busy. So individually you get busy, but as a brand and a business, you definitely get busy. So make sure you put your target goals on there. Like maybe you have a certain email blast that you know you want to go out every single Tuesday at noon Eastern, or possibly it's making sure that you have a certain amount of festive events that you're already identifying and you hit your marketing goals for to help promote it. Because we do get lost in the shuffle during the holiday. So really, truly right now is your time to start making these strategic decisions so that you have the opportunity to have a very profitable season.
Fantastic. You've offered so many amazing pieces of advice today. Super helpful strategies, tactics, ideas all around. So if our audience were to leave with one or two key takeaways, what would those be?
So many. I don't even know where to start. But I think that, the first thing I would say is that sometimes patience actually does lead to profit. So as you are making these plans and introducing and integrating great technologies into your business, be patient with the results of which they'll deliver on, because tomorrow you might welcome, let's say, some new integrations into your BigCommerce platform and get very excited to roll these out. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen if you are consistent. So be patient to lead to your profit, but make sure you have consistency along the way there. And the other thing, as much as I love this old-fashioned customer service and the sentiment of customer care and connectivity and communication, the one thing I will say is that never ignore data. So never ignore data, because data is going to reveal things that the human touch point, the human eyes, we simply can't by ourselves. Retail is a very, very busy place to be. And so welcome that data from all those integrations and all the different touch points that your brand is. The path to purchase can be very complex, but data can reveal so much of it. And if you actually welcome the data, you have the opportunity to be more proactive on that data and again, lead to profit. Because at the end of the day, it really is about the transactions and ultimately the success of your business.
The data does not lie.
No, it doesn't.
So true. All right. Well, I, for one, am very excited about the holiday season and can't wait to see how it pans out. So for our listeners who might want to keep up with you, connect with you after this and learn more, where can they find you?
I am always available at retailminded.com, and I'm pretty active on Twitter at retailminded is the handle, and then Instagram at retailmindedworld. So I would love to hear from anybody and everybody.
Wonderful. It was so great speaking with you today and learning from you, Nicole. Thank you for joining us. And for those tuning in, be sure to check out more Make It Big sessions, share what you've learned on social, and don't forget to tag us at BigCommerce. Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Melissa.